Greetings, Nimrods. So if you're having trouble starting your Volvo 740 or 240, or when it does start, it has a real rough idle, this is the first thing we're going to check. And that is the fuel pressure regulator, which is sitting up top on the intake manifold here and on the fuel rail. If you pull off the vacuum hose and you have gas coming out of it, it is shot. And this is the first thing you should check, because this is a really easy fix. It's just dumping the fuel in the intake manifold, and that makes it pretty hard to start. You have to hold the gas pedal down to allow air to go in. And but this is a super easy fix. Change out just a couple 10mm bolts to undo, and then take off the fuel line on the fuel rail and the vacuum hose and pull it off the fuel rail and put a new one on. Super simple, doesn't take about 5 minutes to do. So before you start chasing all kinds of other things, engine coolant temp sensor, or the mass airflow sensor, or the idle air valve, if you're like me, every time you have a problem with your Volvo, you go directly to Robert DIY and check out his videos, and I still do. But he was chasing a similar problem and changing all these things out, and it turned out to be this fuel regulator, pressure regulator, and he didn't do a video on it. The only reason I know that is I read through a bunch of the comments where he admitted that that was the actual problem, and he never did a video on it. So I'm doing it for him. I still love Robert, and he does a great job, and he keeps all my Volvos going. I turn to him often. In fact, it's probably one of the reasons why I have Volvos. It's because I can rely on him having a video on how to fix these older cars. But you didn't have this one, so try this first before you do all those other things, because this is a $40 part in 5 minutes. So it's pretty easy to see if it is bad, because if fuel comes out of it like it did on this one, it is bad. If it doesn't come out, and it shouldn't come out, because there's a diaphragm in there that takes the vacuum and uses that to regulate the fuel pressure. So if the gasoline's getting by that diaphragm, it's dumping it into the intake manifold, causing it to flood out. So super easy fix. So if you're experiencing a rough idle, and it seems to be worse when it's warm, and you have to put the pedal to the floor to even start the car, take a look at that, and you'll save yourself some grief. So we're putting this back on here, and I want you to watch carefully. We're about to tighten up those 10mm bolts. And you'll notice that I missed something here. I had to go back out while I was editing this video and finish off the job. So if you can tell me what that is, and you're a subscriber, and leave it in the comments, and maybe you'll get a t-shirt when I have t-shirts. Or maybe we'll get you some special Nimrod Gorilla Glove driving gloves. But at any rate, see if you can pick up what I missed and put it on the in the comments.
Okay.
So we're going to take this for a test drive now. Well, we'll start it up first and make sure it actually is fixed. And it is. It idles much smoother. It has a hiccup right in the beginning there, but I think that's because there was fuel in the manifold from prior to changing it out. And it just settled right down, and we'll go check for leaks, and then we'll take it for a test ride around the neighborhood.
Let's check for leaks.
Well, that's better. No fuel coming out now. That's the way it's supposed to be. Feel the vacuum on the end of the hose there. And put that back on, and no leaks. We're ready to roll. All right, let's do this.
fix.
I think that was the fastest fix we ever had.
Probably.
Well, hopefully you found that helpful, and hope you don't have to chase too many things to get your old Volvo started. And if you like that video, make sure that you give it a big thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, well, screw.
To this person.
And if you know anybody with a Volvo that might like this video, why don't you share it with it? Use your social media, your Instagram, your Snapchat, or your face page, or whatever. And don't be afraid to share. And of course, remember, Nimrod wants you to subscribe. So subscribe. Happy hunting, Nimrods. Hey, look, some fool's got a Biden sign in their yard.